America has been called a melting pot of cultures and races for sure, and these days it's a melting pot for religions. Trouble is, varying religions don't melt together very well. Despite America's Judeo-Christian roots, it's now necessary to censor the Ten Commandments even when they hang over courtroom benches. Today, a story of conflict and how to handle it. Stay with us. From Chicago's Moody Church, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. Today, Erwin Lutzer begins a new series on Christians in Conflict. Join us now as Dr. Lutzer comes with his first message, When Religions Collide.
Well, the agenda today can be simply stated. How do we live as authentic Christians in a pluralistic society, a society of many different religions? That question was brought home to me this past week. I spent a few hours in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania this past week, flew there Monday morning and came back Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Spoke to some pastors in a hotel, and then we went over to the capital, the state capital, surely one of the most beautiful in all of America. I was told that some weeks ago there was a prayer meeting that was planned by evangelicals. Evangelical Christians went to the powers that be and said, can we have a Commonwealth prayer meeting? And the answer was yes, and so they had a prayer meeting, but a Buddhist wanted to pray and was denied. Well, that made front page news in Harrisburg. These intolerant Christians, who are they? Who do they think they are by excluding others? Why are they so incredibly intolerant? There was a rabbi who actually wrote a letter to the newspaper in response to the controversy. He says that we have many different faith traditions here in Pennsylvania. In the Interfaith Alliance, a national network of people from 70 different faith groups. We've met with Lutherans, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Mennonites, Brethren, and many other committed Protestant Christians. We've encountered Catholics, Jews, Muslims, Baha'i, Sheiks, Unitarians, Wiccans, atheists. First I read that, I thought, now, why are atheists in the community of faith? Come to think of it, they have more faith than any of the other groups listed here, because they believe that nothing times nobody equals everything, and I think that takes a lot of faith, so they belong here. God bless them. We've encountered Jains, Zoroastrians, Buddhists, and others right here in central Pennsylvania, and they are not guests. They are Pennsylvanians, part of that rich cultural fabric. Certainly our legislators must understand how insulting it is to have such a large part of their constituency unrepresented. Well, that would be an interesting prayer meeting, to have all of those 70 groups represented. Now, there was another way that I began to realize the kind of changes that we have in America. I went into the Supreme Court room in Harrisburg. There you have 7 chairs, and the justices sit beneath a picture of Moses and very clearly spelled out the 10 Commandments. So that is there. That's not been touched. That's been there 100 years or more. But when they hand out the Supreme Court booklet for tourists, it's very interesting, and I know that you can't see this that far away. And if you're listening by radio, you can even see less, I'm sure. But you'll notice that here in this panel, there are 7 justices, and above them are the 10 Commandments, but they are censored out. They are actually out of focus, and they cannot be read. Now, to be fair, in the rest of the book, there is a picture of the 10 Commandments, along with the other kinds of law, the law of Justinian and the law of the Greeks and so forth. So the 10 Commandments is mentioned there, and it is pictured, but not above the justices, even though that's what hangs above them even as they deliberate. Now, why is it that they censored out the 10 Commandments? Well, I can understand that probably there was opposition. They said, you cannot privilege Christianity. You cannot privilege the Judeo-Christian heritage. We must be favorable to all religions, and therefore the Ten Commandments have no place in hanging above the justices as they do their work. Did you know that there are those who want to rewrite the textbooks in America? And they want to rewrite these books and take out references to God and the Pilgrims and their Bible. And I've actually read the reason they say is because it privileges one religion, namely Christianity, above the others. And you're not supposed to privilege one religion above another. Sin basically no longer exists in America, but there are still two sins left. One is eating chocolate, and the other is privileging Christianity above other religions. So the question is, how do we live? Now, that's the agenda for the next 20 or 25 minutes, and by the time I'm finished, you're going to have your answer. But before I turn to the Scriptures, this is going to be a different kind of a message. If you're visiting here at the Moody Church, I want you to understand that normally the pastor does not give a lesson in history. But we're going to look at history because history is then going to illuminate the text of Scripture, and we'll understand its importance and its relevance, particularly for those of us who are Americans. Now the history. In the early days of the Christian church in Rome in the first century, it was absolutely unthinkable to the Romans that one could be a good Roman citizen and at the same time be a Christian. It's not because they objected to people worshiping Jesus. All kinds of gods were worshipped, and if you wanted to worship Jesus, you would have that freedom. The trouble that the Roman authorities had was that there were Christians who were worshiping Jesus and claiming that he was Lord over all the other religions, that he was King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And they said that cannot be tolerated because if you believe that, you cannot be a part of our commonwealth. You can't be a good citizen. We have to understand that the glue that holds us together is our Roman religion with all of its diversity and politics.